Imagine a city so vast, so impossibly magnificent, that when explorers first stumbled upon it, hidden deep inside a jungle that had swallowed it whole for 500 years, they refused to believe that human beings had built it. They thought it had to be the work of gods. And in a way, they were right. Because what they had found, buried beneath centuries of roots, vines and silence, was not just a temple, not just a ruin. It was the greatest city on earth. A metropolis so advanced, so breathtakingly engineered, that at its peak it was home to over 1 million people. At a time when London had barely 100,000. This is the story of Angkor, the city of God Kings, the empire that ruled Southeast Asia for 6 centuries, and the civilization that vanished so completely that the world forgot it ever existed. Welcome to Empire Echo Archive, where the greatest lost empires of human history speak once more. Subscribe to Empire Echo Archive right now and hit the bell icon, so you never miss a documentary like this one. The world before Angkor. To understand Angkor, you must first understand the land that gave birth to it. Southeast Asia, in the first millennium AD, was a world of extraordinary richness and complexity. Dense tropical forests stretched for thousands of miles. Rivers ran so full and so powerful that entire ecosystems were built around their seasonal floods. The land was fertile beyond imagination. Rice could be grown in quantities that seemed almost miraculous to the ancient world. Into this world, a series of early kingdoms arose. Small, fiercely competitive, constantly warring with one another. The Funan Kingdom, the Chenla Kingdom, the early Mon kingdoms of the West. Each one rose, flourished briefly, and fell. But one of these kingdoms would be different. In the late 8th century AD, a young prince returned to Cambodia from exile. His name was Jayavarman, and he carried with him an idea so radical, so audacious, that it would transform not just Cambodia but the entire course of Southeast Asian history. The idea was simple, devastating in its simplicity. He would not just be a king. He would be a god. Jayavarman II, the God King, is born. In the year 802 AD, on the sacred mountain of Phnom Kulen, Jayavarman II performed a ceremony that had never been performed before in the history of Southeast Asia. He declared himself a Chakravartin, a universal ruler, a Devaraja, a God King. The ceremony proclaimed that Jayavarman was not merely a human ruler appointed by other humans. He was the earthly manifestation of the Hindu god Shiva himself. His kingdom was not merely a political territory. It was a sacred realm, a reflection of the divine universe on earth. This was not just religious theater. This was the most powerful political invention in the history of Southeast Asia. Because if a king is just a man, he can be challenged, overthrown, murdered. But if a king is a god, if the divine order of the universe itself is expressed through his rule, then to challenge him is not just treason. It is cosmic sin. Jayavarman understood this completely. He unified the warring kingdoms of Cambodia under his rule. He established his capital at a place that would eventually become the heart of the greatest empire in Southeast Asian history. He built temples. He built roads. He built irrigation systems. He created the administrative and spiritual foundations upon which Angkor would eventually rise. When Jayavarman II died, he had reigned for over 50 years. He had transformed a fragmented, warring collection of minor kingdoms into the beginning of something extraordinary. He had lit a fire that would burn for 600 years. The rise of the Khmer Empire. Over the next 2 centuries, the empire that Jayavarman had founded grew with extraordinary speed and ambition. King after king expanded its territory. Each new ruler was more ambitious than the last. Each one built temples larger and more magnificent than anything that had come before. Each one pushed the borders of Khmer territory further outward, until the empire stretched across what is now Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. The Khmer Empire, as it came to be known, was not just a military power. It was a hydraulic civilization, one of the most sophisticated water management systems in the ancient world. The key to Angkor's survival and prosperity was water. The region around Angkor receives enormous amounts of rainfall during the monsoon season, followed by a prolonged dry season where almost no rain falls at all. To survive in this environment, any civilization needed to control water with extraordinary precision. The Khmer engineers solved this problem in a way that still astonishes modern hydraulic engineers. They built a vast network of reservoirs, called barrages, and canals that covered an area of over 1,000 square kilometers. The largest reservoir, the West Barrage, was 8 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. It held enough water to irrigate rice fields across an enormous area and to supply a city of over 1 million people through even the most brutal dry season. This hydraulic system was not just functional. It was sacred. The barrages were designed to represent the cosmic ocean that, in Hindu cosmology, surrounds the sacred mountain at the center of the universe. The temples rose from their centers like mountains rising from the primordial sea. Engineering and religion were, in Angkor, completely inseparable. Suryavarman II and the building of Angkor Wat. Of all the kings who ruled the Khmer Empire, one stands apart. Suryavarman II, who reigned from approximately 1113 to 1150 AD. It was Suryavarman who commissioned the most extraordinary building project in the history of Southeast Asia. Perhaps the most extraordinary building project in the history of the ancient world. Angkor Wat. The construction of Angkor Wat began around 1113 AD and continued for approximately 37 years. At its peak, the construction project employed somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 workers. Architects, engineers, sculptors, laborers, priests, administrators. An entire civilization mobilized toward a single, sacred purpose. The scale of what they built is almost impossible to comprehend even today. Angkor Wat covers an area of over 400 acres. It is surrounded by a moat that is 200 meters wide and 5.5 kilometers long. To cross from the outside world to the temple, you must walk along a causeway that stretches for 350 meters, flanked on both sides by stone nagas, the mythological serpent kings of Hindu cosmology. The temple itself rises in 3 concentric galleries, each one higher than the last, representing the 3 levels of the Hindu cosmos. At the very center, 5 towers rise toward the sky in the shape of a lotus flower. The central tower reaches 42 meters above the ground, the height of a 13-story building. And every single surface of the structure, every gallery wall, every column, every doorway, is covered in bas-relief carvings of extraordinary beauty and complexity. The bas-relief galleries of Angkor Wat stretch for over 800 meters. They depict scenes from Hindu mythology, scenes of battle, scenes of the afterlife, scenes of the divine court of the gods. The figures carved into these walls number in the thousands. Each one is unique. Each one tells a story. To walk through Angkor Wat is not to visit a building. It is to walk through the Hindu universe itself, made physical in stone. But here is what makes Angkor Wat truly extraordinary beyond even its physical scale. It was built without mortar. The stones of Angkor Wat are held together not by cement or mortar, but by their own weight and by interlocking joints carved with extraordinary precision into each block. The largest stones weigh up to 8 tons each. They were quarried from mountains more than 50 kilometers away, transported by river on rafts, and then lifted into position by systems of ropes, elephants, and wooden cranes. Modern engineers who have studied Angkor Wat's construction have described it as one of the most sophisticated structural engineering achievements of the ancient world. The precision of its layout, its astronomical alignments, its drainage systems, its foundation engineering, all of these are the work of a civilization at the absolute peak of its intellectual and technical powers. The city of Angkor, the largest pre-industrial city on Earth. But Angkor Wat was not the whole of Angkor. It was not even close. The temple was the sacred heart of a city so vast that modern researchers, using satellite imaging and LiDAR technology, have only recently begun to understand its true scale. At its peak, in the 12th and 13th centuries AD, the greater Angkor region covered an area of over 1,000 square kilometers. 1,000 square kilometers of city. Of roads, canals, reservoirs, temples, palaces, markets, rice paddies, neighborhoods, and communities. With a population estimated between 750,000 over 1 million people, Angkor was the largest pre-industrial city on Earth. Larger than any city in medieval Europe. Larger than any city in the medieval Islamic world. The largest urban complex on the planet. The city was not just large. It was extraordinarily organized. A grid of roads connected every part of the urban area. Canals brought fresh water to every neighborhood. The hydraulic system regulated water supply so precisely that multiple rice harvests could be achieved each year, feeding the enormous population. Markets at the center of the city traded in goods from across Southeast Asia and beyond. Chinese porcelain, Indian cotton, gold from the mountains of the interior, rare spices from the islands to the south. Angkor was not just the capital of the Khmer Empire. It was one of the great commercial centers of medieval Asia. The royal palace stood at the heart of the city, surrounded by walls of laterite stone and covered in gold leaf that caught the tropical sun and blazed like a captured star. The Chinese diplomat Zhou Deguan, who visited Angkor in 1296 AD, left behind the most detailed contemporary description of the city that we have. He described a place of breathtaking opulence and complexity. Palaces of gold. A king who held court surrounded by his entire royal household, thousands of women, officials, soldiers, and priests. Markets so busy they operated from before dawn until after dark. Streets so crowded that movement was difficult. A city so alive, so vivid, so overwhelmingly present that Zhou Deguan described feeling as though he had entered another world entirely. Jayavarman VII, the greatest of all god-kings. If Suryavarman II was the king who built the greatest temple, then Jayavarman VII was the king who built the greatest empire. Coming to power in 1181 AD, after repelling a devastating invasion by the Cham people of what is now Vietnam, Jayavarman VII launched the most ambitious building program in Khmer history. He built the Bayon Temple at the center of the new capital Angkor Thom. A temple whose towers are covered with enormous stone faces, serene and knowing, gazing out in all four directions. These faces, believed to represent either the Buddha or Jayavarman himself, or perhaps both simultaneously, are among the most recognizable images in all of Southeast Asian art. He built Ta Prohm, the temple that would later become one of the most photographed ruins in the world, where the roots of enormous silk, cotton, and strangler fig trees have grown into and over the stone walls over centuries, creating an image of such haunting beauty that it seems almost deliberately composed. He built the hospital network. 102 hospitals spread across the empire, each one providing free medical care to all Khmer citizens. He built the rest houses along the royal roads, so that travelers anywhere in the empire could find shelter and food. He built bridges, roads, and reservoirs on a scale that dwarfed all previous Khmer rulers combined. Jayavarman VII was not just a warrior king. He was a ruler consumed by a vision of the ideal state. A state where the suffering of the people was the suffering of the king. A state where power was expressed not just through domination but through care. He converted the empire from Hinduism to Mahayana Buddhism. He saw himself not as a manifestation of Shiva but as a bodhisattva, a being who delays his own enlightenment out of compassion for all living things. The faces on the Bayon towers are not the faces of a conqueror. They are the faces of someone who has seen everything, understood everything, and chosen, in full knowledge of all that understanding, to remain. You are watching Empire Echo Archive. If this documentary is moving you, please like this video right now and subscribe to our channel. We bring history's greatest lost empires back to life, and your support makes every documentary possible. The collapse. How a million-person city vanished. And then, it ended. The collapse of the Khmer Empire and the abandonment of Angkor is one of the great mysteries of ancient history. For decades, historians and archaeologists debated what had happened. How does the largest city on Earth simply stop? The answer, as modern research has revealed, was not simple. It was not one cause but many, arriving simultaneously, reinforcing each other, creating a cascade of failure that no civilization could have survived. The first cause was climate change. In the 13th and 14th centuries AD, Southeast Asia experienced a period of extreme and unpredictable climate variability. The monsoons, which the entire hydraulic system of Angkor depended upon, became erratic. Some years brought catastrophic floods. Other years brought devastating droughts. The precision irrigation system that had fed 1 million people for centuries was designed for predictable monsoons. It could not cope with chaos. Modern researchers, using tree ring data from ancient trees in the region, have reconstructed the climate of this period with remarkable precision. What they found was staggering. Between the 1330s and the 1360s, Angkor experienced a megadrought of extraordinary severity, followed by catastrophic flooding, followed by another drought. The hydraulic system, already stressed by centuries of use and inadequate maintenance, began to fail. Rice harvests collapsed. The population that the system had once fed began to starve. The second cause was political fragmentation. After Jayavarman VII, the Khmer Empire never again produced a ruler of comparable vision and authority. The empire fragmented. Civil wars broke out with increasing frequency. The administrative system that had maintained the hydraulic infrastructure began to break down. When no one maintains an irrigation system, it silts up. When it silts up, it stops working. When it stops working, the rice fields that feed the city go dry. The third cause was the rise of new rivals. The Thai kingdoms to the west, which had once been vassals of the Khmer Empire, were growing in power. The kingdom of Ayutthaya, founded in 1350 AD, began pressing against Khmer borders with increasing aggression. In 1431 AD, Ayutthayan forces captured and sacked Angkor itself. The sack of Angkor was not the first time the city had been attacked. But it came at a moment when the city was already weakened by climate disaster and political fragmentation. The population, already reduced and stressed, began to move southward, toward the coast, where trade routes to China and the islands offered new economic opportunities. The city emptied. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But gradually, over decades, the population drained away. The temples were maintained for a while by the Buddhist monks who remained. But the city itself, the vast urban infrastructure of roads, canals, and neighborhoods, was abandoned to the jungle. The jungle moved in with extraordinary speed. The roots of the silk cotton trees, which can grow at astonishing rates in tropical conditions, found the cracks in the temple walls and pushed into them. The roots expanded, splitting stone, toppling towers, reclaiming territory that human hands had carved from the forest 5 centuries earlier. Within 100 years of the abandonment, the jungle had hidden most of the city so completely that it was virtually invisible to travelers passing within a few kilometers of it. The rediscovery, when the world forgot and then remembered. The world outside Southeast Asia effectively forgot that Angkor had ever existed. There were rumors. Portuguese missionaries passing through Cambodia in the 16th century heard stories of great temples hidden in the jungle. A Portuguese friar named Antonio de Madalena claimed to have visited Angkor Wat in 1586 AD and described it as extraordinary beyond all description and beyond the capacity of pen to describe. But his account was ignored. Dismissed. Too fantastic to believe. It was not until 1860 that the Western world was truly confronted with the reality of Angkor. In that year, a French naturalist named Henri Mouhot traveled into the Cambodian jungle in search of exotic butterflies and beetles. What he found instead changed the course of history. Muhat stumbled upon Angkor Wat, and his account of what he found, published after his death in 1863, electrified the Western world. He wrote of a temple grander than anything that Greece or Rome had ever produced, of galleries of carvings more beautiful than anything in the Louvre, of a civilization so advanced that it was simply impossible to believe that the people who had built it were the ancestors of the impoverished Cambodian villagers he met in the jungle surrounding it. Muhat's account was the beginning of a century and a half of archaeological work that continues to this day. What that work has revealed is almost beyond comprehension. What LiDAR revealed: the city beneath the jungle. For decades, archaeologists worked with hand tools and measuring tapes, slowly mapping the ruins of Angkor that were visible above the ground. By the early 21st century, they had mapped the major temples and the most obvious urban features. But they suspected there was more. Much more. In 2012, a team of archaeologists used a technology called LiDAR, light detection and ranging, to survey the greater Angkor region from the air. LiDAR works by firing millions of laser pulses per second from an aircraft toward the ground. The pulses pass through the forest canopy, bounce off the ground below, and return to the aircraft. By analyzing the returning pulses, it is possible to build an incredibly detailed three-dimensional map of the ground surface beneath the forest cover. What the LiDAR survey revealed stunned the archaeological world. Beneath the jungle surrounding the known temples of Angkor, there was an entire city. An urban grid of extraordinary complexity. Roads, canals, ponds. The foundations of wooden buildings that had long since rotted away. The embankments of rice paddies. The platforms of temples whose stone had been taken away for reuse centuries ago. The greater Angkor region was not just larger than anyone had suspected. It was incomprehensibly vast. A city that covered an area larger than modern-day Los Angeles. And it had been completely hidden, not just from the Western world, but from modern Cambodians themselves, beneath 5 centuries of jungle growth. The LiDAR survey was not just a discovery. It was a revolution. It changed everything archaeologists thought they knew about the scale of pre-industrial urbanism, about what human civilizations were capable of achieving without modern technology. And it raised a question that still haunts researchers today. If Angkor could disappear so completely, what else is hidden beneath the forests and deserts of the ancient world? The temples today, and what they still hide. Today, the temples of Angkor are among the most visited archaeological sites on Earth. Over 2 million tourists visit each year. The image of Angkor Wat's towers reflected in the water of its moat at sunrise is one of the most reproduced photographs in the world. It appears on the Cambodian national flag. It is the symbol of a nation and a civilization. But the tourists who flood through Angkor's galleries each day see only a fraction of what was once here. The temples they visit are the stone structures, the ones that survived because stone does not rot. The vast wooden city that surrounded them, the palaces, the markets, the neighborhoods, the administrative buildings, all of that is gone. Dissolved back into the earth over 5 centuries. And even the stone temples are in danger. The roots of the trees that give Ta Prohm its haunting beauty are also slowly destroying it. The sheer weight of tourist traffic is eroding the sandstone carvings that have survived for 900 years. Climate change is altering the monsoon patterns that the ancient engineers designed the hydraulic system around, threatening the water supply that the modern city of Siem Reap depends upon. The Cambodian government and UNESCO are working to preserve what remains. But it is a race against time. And beneath the jungle, the LiDAR surveys continue to reveal new structures, new roads, new evidence of a civilization far more complex and far more extensive than even the most optimistic archaeologists had imagined. Every year, new discoveries are made. New questions are raised. Why Angkor matters today? So why does Angkor matter? Why should you, sitting in your home in the 21st century, care about a city that vanished 500 years ago in the jungles of Cambodia. Because Angkor is a mirror. It is a mirror held up to our own civilization. A reminder that even the greatest, most sophisticated, most powerful urban cultures in human history are not permanent. That they can be brought low not by military defeat alone, but by climate, by political dysfunction, by the failure to maintain the systems upon which their survival depends. The Khmer engineers who built the hydraulic system of Angkor were geniuses. They solved problems of water management that modern engineers still marvel at. But their system had a fatal weakness. It was designed for predictability. For a climate that behaved consistently, year after year, within parameters the engineers could plan around. When the climate stopped behaving predictably, the system failed. When the system failed, the city died. Today, we live in a world where climate unpredictability is increasing. Where the systems upon which our civilization depends are being stressed in ways they were not designed to handle. Where political dysfunction makes it increasingly difficult to maintain critical infrastructure. The story of Angkor is not just history. It is a warning. And the most extraordinary thing about that warning is that it comes to us carved in stone. In 800 meters of bas-relief. In the faces of the Bayon, gazing serenely out over a jungle that has swallowed the city they once watched over. The god-kings of Angkor believed their empire was eternal. They built in stone precisely because stone lasts forever. They wanted their civilization to be remembered. They could not have imagined that it would be forgotten. And then found again. This has been Empire Echo Archive. The echoes of the greatest lost empires in human history, brought back to life for you. If this documentary gave you chills, taught you something extraordinary, or changed the way you see human history, please do 3 things right now. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Empire Echo Archive. We publish brand new historical documentaries regularly, and you do not want to miss a single one. And drop a comment below telling us, what surprised you most about Angkor? What lost civilization or hidden place do you want us to explore next? We personally read every single comment. Every share helps this channel grow and allows us to keep making documentaries like this. This is Empire Echo Archive. And the echoes of history are never truly silent.